In March of 2024, I began the painful process of a divorce. I thought the end of my marriage was also the end of all my hopes and dreams. When I took a step back and recognized my relationship for what it truly was, I realized it was holding me back from achieving so many of my goals and ambitions. I chose to take my pain and use it as fuel to create the best, most positive life for my 2 young boys and I. Since then, I've crossed items off my bucket list, improved my health, laughed more than I have in years, did things I never thought were possible, and made unforgettable memories with my family and friends. I now envision my future being brighter than it has ever looked before. I'm here to share my journey and bring guests on to tell their stories of how their painful situation turned out to be a redirection in life. Welcome to the Pain into Positivity podcast. Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Pain into Positivity podcast. I'm here with Ronnie Bernick, founder of Hot Corner Athletics. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so you and I talked last summer, and we realized we had really similar childhood stories. You had a life-changing experience starting at the age of 8 years old. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so grew up kind of very similar to everybody else, where 2 parents in the home, me, my brother, and my sister. I was more of the outspoken even kid growing up. I was kind of always in the middle of everything. So I ended up, and I'll get to this side of it, but I ended up finding myself in situations that I probably shouldn't have been in whenever I was younger because I was curious.
Okay.
I was always very curious about everything, and I heard everything.
Like what? What
So my parents, I ended up going through a really bad divorce. My parents went through a really bad divorce. And all the kind of, I guess the crap started literally on their wedding night. But my mom was like, hey, I'm in this and we made this decision, so we're going to try and figure it out. Both of them obviously needed to grow up a little bit. And then I came along. So I think they fought for years to make it work. But then when I got to be around 8 years old, things really started to get bad. So my father was a police officer, and he also had a business that he did interior design and would do tile work on the side and things like that. He would kind of come into houses like this and do all the work in here. Cool. But that was his 2 jobs, so he worked a lot, right? My mom, worked really hard too, but she also wanted to go back to school and wanted to really chase that. So both of them, while we were growing up, they were living and kind of doing everything, but my dad started to kind of turn down a really bad path. So, long story short, he would work in the morning and do his tile stuff, and then he would go and be a police officer at night and wouldn't show up till 4 a.m, where we were under the impression that he was working late at night, but we come to find out that he was doing other things that he probably shouldn't have been doing, right? And then the argument started at home, but it started at 2, 3, 4 a.m. Well, me being curious, I would wake up and I would see everything. So we were in a very bad, domestic violence type situation. My mom and myself, dealt with a lot of crap.
Oh, I didn't know that part. We didn't talk about that part last
right.
year, but yeah, so I didn't know
So there was
part.
a lot of domestic violence. The police were at my house a lot. And so for me, it was I thought that that's life. I didn't know anything else.
And that affected you and...
It was horrible. I went through a post-traumatic stress disorder stint, and I was medicated, and I was in therapy for a while, and I fought therapy because I was a tough, hard-nosed 15-year-old kid that didn't want anybody to help me kind of thing. So, as we scaled it up, I kind of got to the point. My dad they got divorced in 2005, and he moved out, and it got way worse after that for a long time. And I had to basically turn into dad kind of.
You gotta grow up fast.
Super fast. My stepdad always tells me now, when I was in high school, he used to always say hey, just go be a kid. It's okay. You're gonna be fine. But I didn't know how to do that because I had to learn how to protect whenever I was really young. So that's kind of the outline of it. We can get into it way deeper into how I kind of got here. But, honestly, it was a really bad divorce situation. My home life was horrible. Him getting out of the house was really good. He spent, I think, 4 different times he was in psychiatric care, and there was 2 or 3 different times that I saw him get arrested in my house. So as a child, when you're 10, 11, 12, we're developing, and we'll get into how I work with kids now, but they're in a developmental phase. There's a lot of bad that could happen during those times. So for me, it was just understanding, I didn't know what was happening developmentally in my brain.
You didn't realize it was wrong, and it wasn't life. It wasn't how life should be.
I knew that it didn't make me feel good, but I knew that was my situation. So I didn't understand what was happening in other homes. Like I had no idea. I was 12, 8, 12, So as I got older, I started becoming a lot more reserved. Like I didn't really want to talk to people, and then when I would see good situations with like, I played baseball my whole life and we'll get into that, but like I saw dads with their sons playing catch and I was like, wait a second, like this is confusing. Like I don't have all that. So that's kind of the breakdown of my story. It gets so much more in depth of like how it's carried into like my college playing career and how he kind of tried to get himself involved there. And with my family now, I got 3 kids, so getting into that, so
You have 3 really cool kids.
yeah, they're crazy, but yeah, 3 really cool kids. But yeah, so it's been a long time, like 20 years now, but like he'll still come around at times and try to get himself in.
He wasn't there for the hard times when you were young and you needed him.
Well, he was the root of most of those issues,
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, well, now he's in his 60s, and now he's like, oh, now I want to come around because like I'm having success in my life, and I have an awesome wife and a great 3 kids, and so I think for him, it's really hard to probably see that. It'd be easy.
It'd be easier now because the hard part's done. Your mom did the hard part.
She did.
The single mom, and I mean, let's just get into that. Who was your person? I mean, I think it was your mom.
Yeah, growing up for sure. Like my mom is a rock. So she always says that, she's envious of my relationship with my wife at times because she's like, well, you have 2. Like I was both for a long time. And she made it very clear that when my stepdad came into the picture that like he's not going to replace. Like he can be a piece of it.
Yes.
But like my mom was the rock.
Absolutely.
So for us it was like she kept it together. But I would say, like, to give her a lot of credit on this, like, she allowed me to be who I was and allowed me to figure myself out. Where I think a lot of times I see it every day where kids are being molded into something that, like, will make the parent proud. And she allowed me to fail. Like, she allowed me to be who I was. And I didn't understand it at the time, but, I was not troubled, but I had my issues growing up as a teenager. Like, I had emotions that I couldn't control, and, like every kid. And she just allowed me to be who I was. So I had to figure myself out. And so I give her a lot of credit for that. But even now today, like if I have something that's really bothering me, I can go to her and be like, hey, like this
I love that.
I
hope that my boys feel that way about me one day. That's a goal.
She's a beast. Like, and seriously. And I think a lot of it was that like, so my mom had me at 19. So what we always talk about is that we grew up together.
Aww.
So now like I'm 32, she's 52, and like I tell her all the time, I'm like, just go chase what you want. Like you allowed me to do that.
Now you're like her hype man.
Yeah, I'm like, go get it. You know what I mean? So,
That's awesome.
But yeah, she was the rock during that time, and we talked about this actually last week. Like I have no idea what she was feeling. I don't know what she was going through, because she kept it together as much as she could. All I know is that like I was able to do me and chase what I wanted to chase, even though we were going through all of that. And that's why, like, I know we talked off air about this, but I think that's the reason why, like, I have a chance to have a really good relationship with my wife and be a really good dad, because she didn't taint who, like, relationships are. She always talked about, like, how to respect people and how to take care of people. And I have so much respect for that, because she very easily could have been, like...
She could have been bitter. She could have been...
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was feeling like she wanted to make sure you turned out okay. That was her goal in life.
Correct.
Because I know that's my goal in life for my 2 boys.
And I'm sure she was bitter, and I'm sure she went through her own.
Oh, 100%. But she did a good job at putting that back so she can make sure that you guys grew up okay.
Exactly right. And that's where I have, like, now being a father, like, I have so much respect for that, because now I'm like, wait a second, like, we could have really went a different path.
Absolutely.
And how many kids go through my situation in life that don't turn out the same way that, like, I feel like I have. So it goes back to, like, she just kept it together, and she was probably just dying inside,
Yeah.
And then she was my age.
Yeah.
When all this was happening.
Oh, wow.
So the fact that she was 32 when I was 12, and now looking at it, like, I don't know what I would do right now if I was going through that same situation. I would break.
You wouldn't. You would do the same thing.
Probably because I'm tough.
You would do the same
like,
thing.
I feel like what she was
You would
able
break
to...
for a minute.
Right.
And then you would pick yourself up.
For sure.
And you would turn your pain into positivity.
Exactly
look
right.
what you've done. You talk about it, that one of my favorite things that you said is your situation doesn't define you.
Correct, yeah.
I know it can be difficult to find that light, and What brought you to that point in life to find the light and the positivity in everything that you dealt with?
Yeah, because I was able to. So my grandparents, my mom, when we were single parent home, my mom worked a lot. So my grandparents, who were from Italy, they were off the boat. Both of them have passed, but they literally moved over here when they were in their 20s. So there was a little bit of a language barrier. The culture in Italy is different than the culture in the United States. So I had a lot of freedom, and I feel like for a lot of kids, like we try to navigate for our kids, like, okay, don't hang out with this group of people, don't go here, try to get into this. Like we try to force that on them, right? Because of our own fears as parents, and I'm a coach, so fears as coach, like I don't want you to be around the wrong people, right? But I was kind of put in an environment to just do my own thing. So I was around bad kids and I was around good kids, and I had to learn how to navigate that. And I think what I learned through all of it was, regardless of the environment that I'm in, I have to, number one, be able to relate to everybody, and I have to be myself. So I think like the one thing that everybody will say about me is that I'm very honest, like brutally honest at times.
It's not a
But
bad thing.
no, but I think that's what I've learned. When I'm around kids that are doing the wrong thing, it's very easy to fall into that peer pressure. I had to stand up for myself in those moments and be like, oh, that's not how I operate.
And you got that strength from your mom.
And I got it from her.
You got it from your
no
mom.
doubt. And then on the from the other people, like from the professional side, like kids that are trying to do good things and chase something, I had to learn that like I can also do that too. I don't just have to be in the middle. Like if I want to go and chase something, like really at the end of the day, it's on me. And I learned that by like being 14 years old and wanting to go hang out with my friends and not having a ride and having to ride my bike, or hey, these kids are going here, and me wanting to be a part of a group and not knowing how good that group was. So I think for me it was just like life experience, and I was able to have a lot of life experience from the time I was 10 until I graduated high school.
And
like,
you can't blame anyone for being stuck. It's up to you. Even though you were young, you just
Correct.
can't blame anyone. Like now, like you did something with a life, and if anything, you've been motivated by your mom instead of blaming the situation when you were younger.
Yeah, and you know what? And I had a really good therapist in high school, and
That's wonderful.
And that's where, like, I would say the second piece of it. I did this on another podcast where I talked about this a little bit. I didn't want to do therapy, and I fought it. I also really didn't love school because I didn't feel motivated in school personally. Like it was easy. I didn't really have to do anything to pass. I was always trying to find ways to get around stuff, like, which I don't like. Like I don't like feeling that way.
You like a good challenge?
I do.
Okay.
I want to be challenged, and I wasn't. And so my therapist was like, well, if you're not going to come to me, I'll just come to you then. So I was like, well,
to your house?
No, to school.
Oh.
So like, you're going to get me out of class? That sounds great. Let's do it.
There you go.
So that was her way of getting in. And then, of course, when we started talking, I thought
she really like honed in on what you needed.
Me.
Yeah.
And that's where now, as a coach and as somebody that deals with a lot of kids, I'm like, okay, I can't meet them at my level. I have to meet them at their level.
And not every kid's the same. Like, this in parenting. You have to parent all three of your kids three different ways.
Completely different. Yeah.
Like, I have two different, total opposite kids that I have to parent completely differently.
Exactly.
Just because you're positive doesn't mean you're always happy. You've built a very positive environment around kids and coaching. Tell me about the relationships that helped you get to that point.
Yeah, I got to see people struggle, and I learned within that struggle that you really get to go one of two ways. Like, you could either allow the struggles to define you negatively and then always blame those struggles when, like, they're in the past, right? We can't control what already happened. We can only control the decision we make now, right? And what I've learned is that the best people that I've ever been around always tell me everybody has a story and everybody has their own stuff that they're going through.
Absolutely.
Like every single person. So when you're looking at somebody for the first time, we can't just automatically judge and assume something because we don't know what's happening, not only in their head at that moment, but what has already happened in their life, right? Like when I work with kids, I see them for an hour, 2 or 3 days a week. That's 3 hours out of 168 hours in a week. I have no idea what happens the other 165 hours I don't see them. Are they getting sleep? Do they have a good home life? Do they have good friends? Are they getting bullied in school? What is their, I don't know what their situation is, so I can't automatically assume something about anybody because half the people that I'm around on a daily basis have no idea what I went through. So I can't control what other people go through. I can just be hopefully a positive representation at that moment of myself and of that kid. You know, and that's kind of how I go about every relationship. You know, and I think like our conversation we had last year was literally in the outfield
Yeah.
at a baseball field.
At baseball camp. Yep.
Baseball camp in the outfield. And if I was to judge you on your situation, or you were to judge me, up until that point, you had no idea.
No, we did not know. I don't even know how we got into the conversation, but I just remember letting you know how much I appreciated you having that camp, and my
Right.
kid really needed it at the time.
Right.
And it's the highlight of their summer.
Well, that's why I said like, okay, well, I went through stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
if you guys ever need anything, let me know.
Yeah.
You know, because I
appreciate
now I get it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, you know, like your kids, like they at some point might want somebody to talk to. You know, and I won't say the kid's name, but there's a kid at our place right now that his parents just got divorced, and I've been around him since he was 9 years old, so I know when something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and so I tried to talk to him at the facility, like behind closed doors, away from everybody, and that wasn't the right environment. Like, it didn't work, so I had to do it in a different way. But once I said to him, like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, I don't know what you're going through. It's not my business. If you need somebody to talk to, just know I'm in your corner. And I think that's how I've used my experiences to meet them where they're at. Like, I don't
Creating a safe space for them
That's
to
it.
talk to you, and maybe they don't want to tell their mom or dad how they're feeling. So,
Correct.
and if they're not doing therapy, I mean, you can be their therapist. You know at this point, you basically are a therapist.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
being
Oh, yeah.
in the job you're doing. And I know sports really helped you. I always troll you that you're giving your T-ball teams protein powder because they hit. Last year, you had 2 kids hitting it to the fence. Griffey was hitting it almost over the fence.
Yeah.
So I was joking around about that, but you definitely took sports, ran with it, and made something of it, not only for yourself, but for so many other kids that you're making a difference.
Yeah, so I basically I don't look at sports as a physical sport. Like, you can't. And I've learned this because I've been so lucky to work with a lot of professional athletes, like a ton. Over 125 kids have gotten drafted since I started doing this. I travel the country. I do a lot of stuff with really high level athletes. Those are the 1%ers.
I'm still waiting for you to get me on the Yankee field, dude.
I know. I gotta figure that. I gotta get there.
We gotta figure that out.
But so what I've learned through all of that is that sports aren't a physical thing. It's for the 1%ers to go and make a living out of, right? But if I'm a coach, I'm going to be working with the 99% more often, right? And as much as they're probably trying to chase the dream, most of them aren't ever going to get there. And that's just the numbers, right? So what
the reality, the harsh truth that
the
you like
harsh
to tell.
truth, that's right. So, but what am I providing to them in that time? If I'm only talking about how to hit a ball with a bat, I'm missing the whole point of sports. So for me, my coach in college did an article on me in the paper one time where he said, like, I'm the definition of grit as a person.
Okay.
And what I look at is like, okay, grit is great, but that's just like me being a grindy, gritty dude that's like not going to quit. Well, I learned that in life, right? But how many kids are going to have a better home situation than I had that might not learn grit? What if I could give them a little bit? Now they can go into life a little bit more equipped, learning it from a coach that they had in baseball, right? And then even how to persevere. Like, we're playing a failure sport, right? You fail more often than you succeed in baseball or softball, right? So you have to learn how to persevere. And that's something that I like live on, like, is trying to figure out a way to just get through regardless of how I feel. Most of the time I don't feel the way that I act, right? Like, I feel tired or frustrated. You know, it's just
keep
life.
on going.
But you got to figure out a way
How
to
many
keep going.
times does Griffey make you pitch the ball to him?
He's going to be at Hot Corner later today.
You know? Yep,
so,
you got him. He's going to be hitting it over the fence in 1A.
We'll see one day.
Spring.
Hopefully. But yeah, so I think understanding how life transitions into any sport, and that's why, like, I love basketball, I love football. Like, I'm not just a baseball person. I like all sports because they teach you a bunch of different things, right? Like, basketball is going to teach you how to work as a small team. Football is going to teach you how to work as a large team. You know, baseball is an individual sport on a team. They all teach you different things. But the best coaches I've ever seen are the ones that don't really care about the sport itself. They love the sport. It's life. Like, we want to teach you how to handle life, because for all of us, like, if you play in the major leagues for 20 years, you retire at 40, you still have your whole life ahead of you. You know, what did the game teach you? You know, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean everything's easy. You're still going to have crap. So I think for me, it was like, I don't even worry too much about bat and ball, how hard do you throw? That's all cool. But, when you come in, are you on time? Do you look presentable? Do you have all of your stuff? Are you being a good part of our culture?
That's a real struggle to get the kids to get all their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real struggle. We're learning. We lose hats. We lose a lot of hats.
And I always say, too, like, I can tell you how, and this is so surface level, but I can tell you that the type of athlete and family I'm dealing with by who carries the bag inside the facility.
Oh, that's
interesting.
Right, I make my kid carry their own.
My son is 5. He carries his own bag.
Absolutely.
And he packs his own bag up, and he puts his own stuff away. And if he forgets his glove, like, we will tell him, hey, this needs to go in your bag.
So what's your advice? Make your kid carry their own bag.
Give them responsibility. Kids that like responsibility.
Should we start making them wash their own white pants as well?
If they can learn how to scrub, for sure.
I would say
so. Yeah,
Those
for sure.
White pants, they're awful.
I would say so. But no, I think giving them something to feel empowered. I think if we empower them, they're gonna thrive. Like, hey, buddy, this is your bat. Take care of your bat. This is yours. It's not mine. It's not daddy's. Like, it's yours. So take care of it. Did you leave it somewhere? Got to make sure we have it, because that's your stuff. If you want to be able to hit, we got to have our stuff. And my wife does an awesome job with that too. So I think
Katie's your hype woman.
Oh yeah, she says to me all the time. She's like, I want you to just go and do your thing, and if you want to be all over the social media and the internet, go ahead. I'd rather stay.
We should have invited her.
Well, the kids would be running around. Like
oh my
crazy.
God, I would love that. I love them. You built Hot Corner with what goal?
I did my senior project in high school on a baseball facility. I've always wanted to do this, but I thought that I wanted to do this to help players get better. But I've learned that that's the easy part. Like, I can always help a kid get better, because the more you practice, the better you're going to get, right? So I didn't realize, again, 18-year-old kid, I had this passion of running a facility. Like, let's just go and do it and make kids better. I was 24 years old when I opened up Hot Corner.
That's young.
Yeah, and I got done playing, and I had a huge roller coaster of emotions with my playing career. Like, I was in the top 20 shortstops in the country. I changed positions. I didn't get drafted. I went through a depression. And I started coaching in college, and then I was like, well, I don't really want to work with 35 kids. I want to work with 1,000 kids. Like, how do I do that? I can't do that in college, right? And so I was going to move back to Pittsburgh, actually, and somebody I was coaching against said that there was a facility opening up in Gatesville in Amherst area, and to go look at it. And then I did, and I was like, this is great. I just don't have the money to afford it. Like, I just got out of school and I make nothing. Like, I can't afford this. And I
figured it out.
And so I actually
How did you figure that out?
So I was a guy that knew the owner of the old place said that he would just give me the money. And that's literally the start of it. And I swear there was no other underlying thing.
Wow.
He literally
I did not know that.
He handed me a check to start my first facility.
That's so cool.
And there was a bunch of deals in place. Like, I would work with this kid for free, and it ended up not being for free. It ended up paying me. So I used that money to pay him back. Like, the craziest, like, he is literally a godsend to me, because he's at this point, he's invested in me 4 times.
Wow.
Never taken a cent of equity, never taken a percentage of anything. He's a really good human being.
I'm learning a lot of new things about you. I didn't know any of this, so this is cool.
So he invested in the company, and then every time I've wanted to grow, I've gone back to him, and I've said, hey, can you help me get this done? Can you help me get this done? And so it started in 2016, and I had Hot Corner Baseball Academy here. And then I wanted to open a gym again, but I'm still trying to build my life and buy a house and get married, and I have a kid. Like, I don't know if I can open up a gym. He helped me out with that, so we build the gym, and then we combine them. So if I combine them, I need more money, right? And so he helped me out with that. And then to finish off our big project that we just did in Lockport, your
Lockport facility is awesome.
Yeah, that we're really.
I do miss you being 3 minutes from my house, but
I get it.
That is a good facility.
We're really proud of it. We're really proud of it.
You should be.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And every summer, it is the highlight of all of our kids' summer is your Hot Corner camp.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
And we've had to actually cut down the number of kids that come to that one, because we used to have 110 kids at that.
I remember I tried to get 110 kids all together for a picture. That was ridiculous. But they did it in like 10 minutes. It's quick.
Yeah. So, but we always, like I said, like, we work in the off season with a lot of kids that want to really pursue like travel and like this crazy stuff that they're doing. But and then obviously now we're getting really busy because the seasons are about to start. But in the summertime, like, what about those kids that just want to have fun playing? And a lot of times, because I said earlier, like, it's a failure sport, kids don't understand how to handle that. So what if you could just come to a camp for 15 hours a week and just have a ton of fun?
And they have a blast.
A blast.
Like, you brought out a slip and slide.
Yeah.
Like, that was so cool. I took the coolest videos. So if you want to see any of those, go on the Hot Corner Athletics Instagram.
Yep.
And the LGYBS Instagram.
Yep, Lou Gehrig's there's
Yep.
two. Yeah. So I think that's what we wanted to try and do. And that's why it's like, oh, can we do sliding practice? Yeah, that'd be boring.
My kids have been talking about that since January.
Yeah, so why
when
don't
are
we
we
do the slip
going?
and slide? Yeah.
Yeah, when are we going?
Yep.
I know you let my 5-year-old come.
Yes.
He signed up already.
That's great.
So for the summer, and they're excited about it. I wish it was next week. I wish you did it all summer. I think actually you should do it all summer for us.
We have five different locations that we're running it this year. So,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we'll link those for you.
Yeah, link them all up. Yeah. Okay. So we'll get 5 of those going.
You seem really passionate about coaching. Was there anyone in your life that made you look past that surface level?
Yeah, I had 2 coaches, and both of them were vastly different, and the best way possible. Because both of them, I was with both of them at 2 completely different points in my life, right? So travel baseball is a big thing, and I played growing up, but I was asked to play on a team that I couldn't afford because of our situation.
Yeah.
So there was a coach that basically set me up with a family that was on the team, and they pretty much took me in and took me on all these trips all over the country.
That's
as like
incredible.
their other kid, right?
Wow.
And so, but I also was like, between the time I was like 13 and 18, I played for this team, and that was when I was going through all of my own struggles. Well, I would get myself in trouble when I was away because I was like, hey, my mom's at home with my brother and my sister. I'm literally unsupervised. I can do whatever I want. And through all of that, like, he taught me, like, is that really how you want
What did
people?
you do? Tell us one
Me?
thing. Anything funny? I like a good funny story.
Yeah, I said I was going to go down to the beach at one tournament and like just go for a run because I had pitched the day before, and like I literally just wanted to walk around the entire city by myself and see where we were. Yeah, but
you lied.
But my phone died.
Oh.
And no one could find me for like 5 hours.
Oh, geez.
So the police ended up getting called to try and find me because I was in a completely different city.
Okay, that's bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we used to jump off like 2-story houses into pools and stuff like that, which is like what kids do, I guess. But
no, I don't think kids do that.
Well, we did. I did.
In the day,
I did.
in the 90s, was this
2000s, like 2006 to 2010.
I don't know any kids that jump off that.
So we were jumping off 2-story buildings into pools and stuff, and like doing really crazy stuff. We had police called a bunch of times, but he would always say to me, like, do you want people to know you like that? Like, how do you want the perception of who you are as a person to be seen? And I was like, well, I don't really care what people think of me. And I still feel that way, but there's a professionalism to it. Do I want the conversation to be negative to the point where like he's a bad human, or like I just don't like him because he's not in my crowd, right? Where so he kind of changed the way I looked at myself. That's where a lot of this like self-awareness came. Like, well, how are people going to see that? There was one time I was pitching in front of a ton of scouts, and I blew the game, and the other team won. And literally standing on the pitcher's mound, I threw my glove from the pitcher's mound to the dugout. Now, again, I felt like I was on my own. I didn't have a ton of guidance. My mom wasn't there, where she would have lit me up about it. You don't do that. Well,
I would be mad if my kid did that.
But I had a coach that held me accountable. And that basically taught me, like, wow, coaches really can help change the course of somebody's life.
Coaches are huge. Like,
massive.
My son's coaches are such great role models in his life. And I love that he has them.
But then that coach, so I graduate, right? And I was actually committed to a different school before I came up here. And they dropped their baseball program. The second they dropped their baseball program, he called me and got me into an event that was closed to give me another chance, because he knew that like it was out of my control, right? And so I ended up going to Canisius. That's why I'm in Buffalo. And the coach I had at Canisius was one of the biggest factors in me becoming like a man. He transitioning from like a boy that was troubled to like a man. Everything with him was about accountability. Like, you are in control of how you handle yourself, and you take accountability for the things that you do right and wrong. And if we're going to win as a group and a team, like, you have to do that. And I will say this, like, there's a lot of controversy around this coach because a lot of people don't necessarily like playing for him because he's really tough. It was the perfect person for me because I would do something wrong and I would be held accountable. I would do something right and I would also be held accountable. So I saw the benefit in making good and bad decisions, but then also like holding myself to a higher standard. So the way I go about my coaching now is if I'm dealing with like an 18-year-old kid, which we have a lot of, like I'm going to treat you like a man. So if you show up 2 minutes after you're supposed to be somewhere, I'm going to talk to you about how that's going to affect your job, your future in athletics. I'm going to talk to you about that. Not that I'm mad at you. Yes, I'm frustrated.
I got a good one for you. You can tell them if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, don't bother showing up.
Don't show up. Right. Exactly.
I love that saying.
So I talked like a lot of our 18-year-old kids that now drive, like you have to be very conscious of your time because 2 minutes late is the difference on whether you get the job or not. Right. And so when you say it like that, like I'm no longer a baseball coach. I'm now a mentor. And I've had two people in my life that were incredible mentors for me that allowed me to be like kind of what you see today. And so I try to be that for everybody. And I think that's why people like the culture of Hot Corner because that's what everybody says. Like
it's a good culture.
We love the culture.
Just the environment, just being in there. You can tell it's very positive, uplifting to be in there. The kids, you can tell everyone, your staff looks like they are happy to be there.
Exactly. And but the other side of it is we also talk to our staff about like, listen, if somebody does something wrong, you have every right to make sure that they know it's not okay because we can't just sugarcoat the fact that somebody did something wrong. There is an accountability factor, right? Like we need the kids to understand that like if you make a mistake, you are going to be held accountable to it. And if you're not focused, like here's a reason why that could be bad, right? Like I tell all the high school kids, like, you know how your parents cut the check and they're the ones that pay for you to be here 60 hours this off season? Like make sure that it was worth their time and money and your time. Your parents work really hard.
Make sure they appreciate it.
And your parents work really hard for you to have this availability. So do not waste their time. Do not waste our time. Do not waste your own time because your time is valuable. So we talk a lot about like the value of what they're doing in the accountability piece. And I think that the best coaches can provide that to kids. And if coaches aren't providing that, I think they're missing the point. And that's the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because I feel like we have such a role in a kid's development.
Well, as a single mom, I think I can really appreciate what you're saying is having these male role models and holding these kids accountable and really teaching them the values of life. Like I appreciate that.
Right.
So that's really, and it sounds like you have so many people that believed in you. And I think that's where truly where you are today.
I always say
a lot of people to thank.
I always say I get lucky. Like I always say it was luck, right?
You had a village.
But I had a village of people that didn't allow me. Like they saw something in me when I didn't see something in myself, right? And I think there's every success story I hear, that's what happens. It's like this person believed in me before I believed in myself. This person gave me a chance when I shouldn't have had a chance. And I feel like that just happened at every step in the way, you know, where it was like my summer coach, and then he just rode it with me through high school. Then my college coach, and then the guy that invested in my company. It's like every step of the way, somebody's been like, I believe in that kid. Where for me, I went through a lot of crap. Like there were times when I was like, none of this is even worth it. I might as well just quit.
You didn't.
But I didn't.
You didn't.
And then I had somebody that was like, all right, I'm in your corner.
You can have a moment. I always say you can have your moment.
Heck yeah.
And then you get up and you persevere.
Brush yourself off and you persevere.
Yeah, grit, persevere.
Perseverance.
Grit, perseverance, and adversity.
That's right. And you can't run away from any of those because they're going to happen. We just have to be prepared for them.
Well, I like all your advice that you're giving coaches, kids, even me as a mom. I feel like I learned a lot from you today.
Well, I appreciate that.
And not only do you have success through sports, Hot Corner, you have a beautiful wife, 3 amazing kids, and you are doing really well for yourself, and I'm really happy for you.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.